Amandla! 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 Amandla!
My fellow Africans, I speak today with a heavy heart. News of attacks against African immigrants in South Africa wounds the very soul of the South African democracy. We must speak honestly and clearly. Violence against fellow Africans is betrayal of everything that was fought for during the struggle against apartheid. South Africa was not liberated by South Africans alone. The freedom enjoyed today was nurtured across the African continent when the apartheid regime hunted African freedom fighters. Africa opened its doors. Julius Nyerere gave sanctuary. Kenneth Kaunda stood firm. Thomas Sankara inspired a generation of African dignity. Nations with far fewer resources than South Africa shared what little they had, so that we, indeed Africans, may one day be free. The blood, sacrifice and solidarity of Africa are woven into the flag of the South African Republic. It is important not to turn against fellow Africans who arrived in Africa seeking opportunity, safety or dignity. A Mozambican, a Zimbabwean, Nigerian, Somalian, Congolese or Ethiopian living in South Africa is not the enemy. Poverty is the enemy. Unemployment is the enemy. Crime is the enemy. Corruption is the enemy. Failed leadership is the enemy. With frustration rises, it is easy for opportunists to redirect the anger of the poor towards the vulnerable. But burning a foreign-owned shop does not create jobs. Attacking a migrant worker does not build schools. Killing another African does not restore the dignity of the township. It merely deepens the wounds still struggling to heal from division. South Africa must never become a country that forgets its history. It knows well the pains of being dehumanized, labeled unwanted, treated as less than human. Apartheid taught South Africans what hatred could do. It allowed to be grown unchecked. Therefore, it's important to have a special duty to reject tribalism, chauvinism and xenophobia whenever they appear. At the same time, government must not dismiss the genuine hardship facing South Africans. The unemployment in Alexandra, Soweto, Durban deserves real economic opportunity. Secure borders, functioning public services, accountable leadership, compassion for immigrants, justice for South Africans are not opposing principles. I call upon political leaders to stop using reckless language that inflames tension for short-term political gain. Leadership is not the art of provoking anger. It's the discipline of building unity. The future of Africa depends upon cooperation amongst other Africans, not hostility between brothers and sisters divided by colonial borders. Let South Africa remember the spirit of anti-apartheid movement, a movement built by international solidarity, moral courage and human dignity. We dishonour that legacy when we attack those who once stood with us. The dream of Africa was never merely the absence of white minority rule. The dream was the creation of a society founded upon justice, humanity, and shared prosperity. That dream remains unfinished, but it will not be completed through fear or violence. It will be completed when Africans recognize one another, not as competitors for survival, but as partners in rebuilding a wounded continent. No African is foreign in Africa. Praise Jah, Rastafari. The establishment of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania in 19... I think you would all agree, that was the right intro for this particular episode of The Motivator Show. So here we go. It's The Motivator Show, because this is where we translate our words into action. And where success is ours for the taking. How are you, people? How are you? And I hope you recognize that intro was necessary. Because even though the issue of immigrants in South Africa has come off the front pages, it's no longer being quoted by the international press. The issues still pertain. It's still continuing in that country. So it was necessary to spend the first 2 to 3 minutes of the Motivator Show just to remind the leaders of that key message. You cannot be an immigrant in Africa. Okay. Hope that message has been received in the intention that we hold true here in the Motivator Show. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. We've got another exciting show ahead of us today. In approximately 30 minutes, we will have a keynote address by an incredibly important man here in Britain. And he will give light to an issue of real concern to all African peoples here in Britain. I say African peoples just to be absolutely clear in the use of that descriptor. Africans directly from the continent of Africa, Africans from the Caribbean, Africans, of course, from the Americas and who live here in Britain and Europe. Just so we're clear about that. I know you can apply other descriptors such as Caribbean or Jamaicans, Americans or Brazilians, French or Belgium, British, I know. Ethnic Africans. And the whole purpose of the Motivator Show is to uplift that community, to empower that community, because in unity is strength. You understand that, I know. I know you understand it. Okay. But we've got a lot to pack in between now and 25 minutes. Yes. We are bringing forward the main keynote dialogue by 15 minutes so that we give ourselves sufficient time to end on time. Good to see you all. Good to see you all, and hope you're all keeping well. So the first issue I want to bring to your attention, of course, as is the tradition here at the Motivator Show, is to recognize some of our past contributors. I want to immediately go to a past contributor, more recent contributor, I might say. I want to go to that remarkable human being, Naima Ali, the FGM survivor. We have noticed that that particular episode here on YouTube has not received many views, and we're presuming the title, we need to modify the title, we'll do so. Okay. But the issue of FGM, female genital mutilation, is close to us. But we at the Motivator Show encounter women for whom this practice, they are survivors. And what has happened that in their own communities, this is a taboo subject for discussion. But yet, hundreds and thousands, forgive me, millions of women suffer the consequences of female genital mutilation. It is abhorrent, and we would want to commend the survivors, but we must strive for better treatment of women and girls who are experiencing FGM. Here at the Demotivator Show, we recognize it's not a popular issue. We recognize for some people it's a turn-off, and we also recognize some people want to, turn their heads and pretend it's not happening. Here at the Demotivator Show, we cannot permit that. We cannot permit that. So we're going to move to you, and we want to show you a short video that focuses on this remarkable human being, Naima Ali, and the issue of FGM. Please listen keenly. I speak not from theory alone, but from a lifetime of watching what this practice does to women and girls, female genital mutilation, FGM. It's often defended in the language of culture, honor, or preparation for womanhood. But strip away those words, and what remains is harm, deep, lasting, and entirely avoidable harm. At its core, FGM is a deliberate injury or removal of healthy tissue from a girl's body. There is no medical benefit, none. What there is, however, is immediate danger, severe pain, shock, infection, and in some cases, death. I've known women who still remember the day with a clarity that borders on trauma. The fear, the restraint, the absence of consent. These are not small things. They shape a person's sense of safety in the world. But the damage does not end there. Many women live with lifelong complications, chronic pain, recurrent difficulties with menstruation are common. Childbirth, which should be a moment of strength and renewal, becomes far more dangerous. Women who have undergone FGM are at higher risk of prolonged labor, tearing, and even losing their babies. I thought I'd just play a short excerpt from that particular clip. I know it's hard. I get it. I know many want to deny. I get it. We must protect women and girls from this practice. It is clear there is no biological benefit to the woman or the girl. There is no benefit. I know it's hard to listen to. I know it's hard to face. I get it. This is the Motivator Show, and we've got to be honest. If we don't tackle these fundamental issues that impact upon the African communities, they will continue. We must be brave. We must be courageous. We must be forthright in our effort to protect all members of the communities, and most certainly women and girls. I want to play now a very short excerpt from Unshackled Duma. Okay. Unshackled Duma is the organization set up by Naima Ali. Okay. And I want you to watch this with the compassion that's intended. Okay. Naima Ali is indeed an FGM survivor. Naima Ali, FGM ambassador for Southwark in London, is the founder of Unshackled Duma. Unshackled Duma is a London-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black, Asian and world majority community and Muslim communities. The organisation focuses on promoting self-empowerment, autonomy and advocacy with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects and supports survivors and works towards eradicating the practice. Unshackled Duma can be contacted via this email address: unshackleduma followed by digit2 at gmail.com. I repeat, unshackleduma followed by digit2 at gmail.com.
Thank you. And I hope you recognize the spirit in which these messages are being communicated to you. Because we are, each of us, the change makers. We are all change makers. There can be no higher duty in protecting the most vulnerable members of the community. I hope you agree. Please spread the word. The word spread by you will go far and wide. Thank you all. Thank you all. And I want to move to another contributor to the show. And indeed, it is another woman. Yes, I know. But women are remarkable people. You know, they are deeply compassionate, but they are forthright, you know, determined, truly loving people, you know. We men need to continue to appreciate them. I know it's the male dominated world. Yeah. We need to appreciate our women. The women we've had here on the Demotivatorshow have been most impressive. So I want to bring to you and remind you, I should say, of another woman, of the contribution here on the Demotivatorshow. You remember Jelly Cheniere, yes? Yeah. And she reminded us of the oral tradition. Tradition used throughout the continent, indeed throughout the world, but most certainly across the continent of Africa, to remind peoples of their heritage, the great events that occurred in their communities, in their societies, yeah? Remind them of their culture and traditions, to give advice and guidance to leaders and to family members, yeah? To be the arbiter of interpersonal discussions, yeah? An important pillar in African societies. She reminded us of the role of the jelly. Yeah, you may have them described by different names in different places. This is true, but what she reminded us is what is possible. She also pointed out to us, while she's with us, that in fact, here in Britain, there is a storytelling festival that's been organised by herself and many other jellies here in Britain, Europe, and indeed joined by jellies from Africa, to share tradition, to have each of different age group experience a jelly speak to us with such wisdom and such thrusting. Here we go. I'll put it on the screen. There we go. So, the Storytelling Festival, we inspire vision with the oral tradition, which is scheduled on 23rd to the 28th of July, 2020 skip. And if you wish to attend, because just so we're clear, it is scheduled to be in Waterton Road, Milton Haven, and that's in Wales, and postcode SA73 1DN in Pembroke in Wales. Okay. If you wish to attend, you can go onto the website address, which is www.shanty-chi.com. I repeat, www. That's three W's dot shanty SHANTI hyphen then chi.com. Or you can send an email to her at info@shanty-chi.com. I'm assuring you, this will be a whole family event, a cultural event. You can become fully immersed in the culture and traditions of many African cultures and Caribbean cultures. It will be truly an event to be at. Truly powerful, truly powerful. Wonderful. And Jenny Chenier, I look forward to seeing you, to speaking with you soon. Praise be, praise be, praise be. Praise be. This is a recording, of course. You can always record back and note the details, but I recommend that particular event to you. I recommend that event to you. And I need to move forward to another woman that was here. Okay, yes, this is very much so. I know, gentlemen, but let's give the women some space, huh? Let's do this, yeah? Let's do this, yeah? Another woman was here. An incredibly courageous, but brave woman. The wife of Nancy Kanu. Man who was illegally transferred from one country back to Nigeria and experienced a trial of sorts for defending his community, defending his people. Free Biafra. Free Biafra. There's an event here in London scheduled on the 30th of May. I want to recognize that event and recognize Namdi Kanu's wife, Kelechi Kanu, okay, a remarkable human being. Yeah, a remarkable human being. And that particular dialogue was most poignant, and it's, wow, most poignant. And I'm reminded how much we must appreciate the women of our communities. Here we go. I'm going to play a short excerpt of which is a promotional clip for the 30th of May for the event here in London, here in central London. And if you can attend, I wholly and completely recommend that you come along.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
IPOB United Kingdom welcome all to the 2026 May 30th Memorial Ceremony in London. Saturday, May 30th at the Parliament Square Gardens from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. May 30th Biafran Heroes and Heroines Remembrance Day is for all lovers of freedom. You are cordially invited to the Requiem Rites and Reflections on Biafra Independence Declaration and her peaceful restoration. Please join us.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we'll continue to play that promo video and any revised video supplied to us by the IPOB, the people of Biafra. Free Biafra. Free Biafra. Or at the very least, finding new cordial relations with Biafra. And Biafra could make a significant contribution to enriching all Nigerians. It just given a chance. Let's give them the chance. Far more productive. I've seen what happened here in Britain with Northern Ireland, and how it was possible for the British government, the British people, to find peace in Northern Ireland. And even though that the enmity was deep and very thorough, they still found peace. I'm confident the federal government of Nigeria and the peoples of Biafra can find peace and cooperation. There you go. Free Biafra. Free Biafra. Well said. Well said. Okay. And now we move to another one of our contributors. It's a powerful words here. This is Demotivatorshow. So we are very much campaigning the YouTube channel. The issues which are not generally in the news are here. It means, of course, we don't get as many clicks and many likes and all that. We get that. We're not here for that. We're here to communicate to those who will listen. I say again, we're here to communicate to those who will listen, those who are ready to listen. Praise Jah, Rastafari. And now move on to another one of our campaigning issues. Here in Britain, and injustice still remains unresolved. And those are the Windrush pioneers and their sons and their daughters. Okay. And injustice is where tens of thousands of them be denied their British citizenship, stripped away their identities. Okay. There's a campaign underway, a forthright campaign underway, a campaign that will not ever end until it is satisfied. Okay. We're calling for a Windrush Act, and I want to commend Anthony Brown for leading that charge. Okay, we'll have him here and other colleagues in not too distant future to discuss and provide an update of what has happened in relation to the Windrush pioneer generation, their sons and daughters. Okay, here we are. Put it on the screen, shall I? Put it on the screen. There you go. We are calling for a Windrush Act. Actions speak louder than words. The time for action is now. Translate our words into action. Contact via this website, wdlegal.co.uk. Join the campaign to secure the Windrush Act. Together, we will make the difference. In unity is strength. Very important campaign. It's on the screen. I urge you, even if you're not directly impacted, to reach out. Reach out to the campaigners, okay? They're making headways. They are making headways. Praise be. Long may that campaign continue. Well done, Anthony Brown and the entire team. Members of the Windrush National Organisation, keep up the good works. We are with you. And I know this is not an issue, again, regularly on the front page of national media or being spoken about on social media. This is the Motivator Show. Those issues which are trying to suppress here is mentioned here on the Motivator Show. In unity is strength. Yeah? We translate our words into action because success is ours for the taking. Yes, it's a mindset. Yes, never defeated, never diminish. Praise God. Okay. And now I want to move to another subject, slightly different, but an important contributor to the life and times of our peoples here in Britain. Okay. I want to move to a subject which is slightly different, which is, of course, wealth, supporting entrepreneurship, expanding the business communities within the African communities, creating wealth, creating employment, creating opportunities, yeah. Promoting trade between Britain and Africa, the Caribbean, yeah. Creating wealth, securing pride and dignity. Okay. One person at the very centre of the communities here in Britain is Dr. Carlton Brown, the author of the Entrepreneur's Report, The Race Paradox. Indeed, many public services, many companies are under investing in the African communities and thereby reducing the profit margins for their own shareholders. Yeah? Working with the African community will create real opportunities, boost Britain's GDP, create opportunities for both employment and training. Yes, that's the way forward. Dr. Carlton Brown, we're with you. We're with you. Here we are. Watch this. Hear his words.
This is your moment. Don't let it pass. The UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference 2026. NatWest Conference Centre, Bishopsgate, London, 8th July. Come and hear from world-class speakers and renowned entrepreneurs. If you've been thinking about starting, growing, or taking your business seriously, this is where it happens. Learn how to build and scale globally. Unlock innovation and tech to move faster. Get in the room with people who are actually doing it. No more waiting. No more watching from the sidelines. 70% sold out. The room is filling fast. Secure your seat now. www.thebbec.com. Eventbrite.
We are building a future that is not just sustainable, but truly extraordinary.
Be in the room or hear about it late.
Brilliant, huh? Absolutely brilliant. Huh? Absolutely brilliant. Well done, Dr. Carlton Brown. In fact, let me put this up on the screen for you, just so that some of the excerpt there. If you could give us one here, there you are. Let's do this. Oh, people coming up. Okay, we can make them up another time. I want you, this is a recording, this is a recording. I want to encourage you, if you haven't yet got your ticket, we urge you to do so, and let's do a screener. If you haven't yet got your ticket, we urge you to do so. This will be a seminal event, a seminal event. It's one that we commend, and if in doubt, ask questions. And say again, if in doubt, ask questions. Because together we will all make the difference. Together we will all make the difference. So if in doubt, ask questions. There we go. And put this other detail on the screen so I can. Come up. Okay. In fact, what I'm going to do, I think, I'm going to play that video one more time. Just for those of you who may not have gathered the details, this is recorded, you can always play back. I'm going to play one more time because it deserves further.
This is your moment. Don't let it pass. The UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference 2026. NatWest Conference Centre, Bishopsgate, London, 8th July. Come and hear from world-class speakers and renowned entrepreneurs. If you've been thinking about starting, growing, or taking your business seriously, this is where it happens. Learn how to build and scale globally. Unlock innovation and tech to move faster. Get in the room with people who are actually doing it. No more waiting. No more watching from the sidelines. 70% sold out. The room is filling fast. Secure your seat now. www.thebbec.com. Eventbrite.
We are building a future that is not just sustainable, but truly extraordinary.
Be in the room or hear about it late.
Very good. Well done, Dr. Carlton Brown. Keep up the good work. I know you've helped create many people to create real wealth, real employment opportunity, heighten and deepen as the skill base, and promoted trade between Africa and Britain, Africa and the Caribbean, and improve Britain's GDP and create opportunities in Africa and the Caribbean that otherwise would not be there. Well done, well done. Not the good words. What we like here at Motivation, that people are not simply talkers, but are doers. That's what we want. Not just talkers, we want doers. What everyone says, we want the doers, people who devote themselves not only to speaking about the issue, but strategizing, ensuring the issue and actualize, and has a material impact on their lives and indeed our lives. Praise be. Well done, Dr. Carlton Brown. Keep up the good works. Keep up the good works. Lastly, before we go to the dialogue, which is a powerful dialogue, involves new chapter, and we get more to it as possible. We do include, for obvious reasons, our lifestyle issues. This week, I'm informed of 4 persons in my network. Each and every evidence lies for their our lifestyle, how we live our life, with a direct impact on our longevity of our lives. Again, I realize that this is not a method that you typically hear in social media or the natural press or radio. I get that. This is the motivation. We are profoundly concerned with the levels of diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity of fitness, heart that plague the communities. Would be remiss, in fact, it is responsible for us here at the Motivator Show bearing in mind the philosophy, the intent of the Demotivator Show channel. So it's not to mention that we should take every effort to improve the quality of our lives. For that reason, we want you to listen to this very short clip. The public health director for London. Listen to his advice to us all to improve our life. It's very simple advice. I'm always struck by how simple it is. Okay? But if we take on board his advice and guidance, we're more than likely to live longer and fewer.
So Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect. Rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health.
There you are. Very simple advice, isn't it, really? It's very simple, really. I have to say that I repeat these messages for myself also, reminding what is required to maintain a healthy lifestyle. It is, yeah, even me, I try hard. 'Cause I can be quite intense and not exercise as much as I need to, or pay attention to those other points that the professor has raised. Okay, but nevertheless, this is the Motivator Show. Now, you'd expect us, therefore, to remind us all what we should do to live longer, healthier lives. So you're not weighed down by these conditions. But I'm very mindful of the words of the Vice Chancellor of the University of West Indies, in which he cited and noted that significant members of his family suffer from diabetes. In fact, I'm just going to play a short excerpt from it, because I want you to just remind ourselves why these messages are so important.
We have 60% of the black people in the Caribbean over the age of 60 have hypertension or diabetes, or both. Now, if you take the single criterion of chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, if you take that simple criterion, the black people in the Caribbean are the unhealthiest people on the planet. And you have to understand that. On the one hand, we are watching Usain Bolt and we're watching the Caribbean athletes. We're watching the Caribbean with an image of being the most athletic people on the planet. But beneath that image of these super sportsmen and women is the hard reality that we are now the sickest people on the planet. In every black family in the Caribbean, hypertension and diabetes is endemic and congenital. In my family, almost everybody over 60 has hypertension and diabetes.
You heard what he said. In his family, virtually every member has either diabetes or high blood pressure, hypertension. Gosh, this is a public health emergency. So what I'm heartened by, we're heartened by, the number of you who've heard these messages have come together in common aim and common purpose. Understood, if you work together, they collaborate together, you're more likely to live healthier together. And together, you will make the difference. I'm going to play just a very short excerpt from people who've come together in common aim and common purpose, understanding, working together, they can stay healthier together. And you'll see people who are tall and they're slim, and they're short and they're wide, and they're tall and they're very wide. But you see their children running around. They see their mums and dads, aunts and uncles exercise together and reminding them that exercise is good. Watch this, just for a minute. Just watch it, just watch it. It's the motivator here, and this is where we translate our words into action. And we're successful. That's right. See them, they exercise together. They pool their resources so they can exercise together. That's right. You see them. They're tall and they're short. They're thin and they're wide. Yes, but they come together in common aim and common purpose. In recognition, working together, we can transform our lives together. Yes. There you are. You see them. You see them. Yes. That's right. Making all the difference. Just a few minutes today. I'm going to pause it there. Don't you worry. I'll pause it there. But the message I know has been received. Because I know hundreds, please forgive me, thousands of you have heard these messages, have come together, common aim and common purpose, to exercise together, putting your resources to exercise together, so you can live healthier together. And together we can transform our general health and well-being. Thank you, each and every one of you who've heard these messages and have responded positively, and not simply turned off, but have understood their importance. And look, the group I just mentioned there, Countdown, you remember we had Ishmael on only a few episodes ago. You know, he's based here in South London. Okay? And he meets every Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. at 12 Tatum Street, Tatum Street, that in London, the postcode S for sugar, E17 1TN. And their email address, it's countdown0405@gmail.com. Or you can call them if you wish to make arrangements. That's 07 960 803 588. And together you can transform your health and well-being. There you are. Okay, all right. Now it's time. Now it's time for our keynote interview. This interview really focuses on policing here in Britain. The nature of policing, okay, how it is regulated and the governance arrangement, and how the police services across Britain, particularly England and Wales, treats black women, African women in the police services. Okay. This is one of those enormous untold stories. What revealed in this dialogue may upset some of you. Okay, it may upset some of you because the content revealing the truth can be unsettling, and we get that. We absolutely get it. We get it. Okay. It doesn't mean we mustn't share the truth with you. And I hope you agree with that. It doesn't mean we mustn't share the truth with you. It simply means that the truth can be somewhat, well, disconcerting. You have to ask yourself the question, why do it? Why be so, well, unsavory? That's what you've got to ask yourself the question. Why do it? And very often in these circumstances, what we have found is that those who are engaged in this type of behavior don't really know what they're doing. They don't really know what they're doing. They have no appreciation of the impact of their behavior. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Although the police commissioner for London is someone we may need to have a word with, I suggest. We may need to have a word with him. Okay. Because he's on record as suggesting that there isn't a problem. There isn't a problem. Despite the fact an independent report has made it clear that there is a problem. So, what should we do about this? Okay. So, the whole purpose of this particular dialogue is to bring it to all of our attention. Okay. So we can face the issue head on. Okay. And really be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves. So, I'm going to bring it on the screen. And if you've got any questions, I'd invite you to send those questions to us. If we say via our email address, which I'll put on the screen later on. But for now, what we want to do is simply bring the issues to your attention. So you've got it, and you can make your own judgment call. And I'm now going to... It's the motivator here, and this is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. I know many of you will recognize the wonderful, inspired personality that we have here today. Yes, we have Lee Jasper. Oh, in the other direction. There you are. Lee Jasper. There's my thumb in the right direction. Lee Jasper with us. He is with us. Yes, it is him in the flesh, as it were. He will impress us. He will impress us. He's recognized here in Britain because he's more than simply a national icon. He's more than simply an institution. He is both a father, sorry, get that right, a husband, a father, I'm sure a grandfather, an uncle. He has all the accolades that is family centered. And what sets him apart from many of us here in the community, he says, he cares and has devoted his life, I say again, devoted his life to the people, for the people. And wherever he sees injustice, he's there on the front line, in the vanguard, if you like, to ensure justice is served appropriately. He is someone who has earned our collective highest respect. Okay? And if there was an award here in the African communities, both the Caribbean and continent communities here in Britain, this man definitely will be a high contender, if not a regular winner of that accolade. Lee Jasper, how are you?
I'm very well. And thank you so much for inviting me onto the Demotivator show today. Your work is always outstanding. I'm always impressed by the breadth of topics that you cover on your show. I mean, internationally, locally in London and beyond. It is just hugely impressive that you're taking such a internationalist, Pan-Africanist perspective to the issues facing our community. So I'm delighted to be on the show, and let's get it on.
Let's get it on. And thank you, Lee, for that introduction. And you're quite right. Here on the Motivator Show, our aim, of course, is to educate, provide good quality, verified information that judgment, decisions are able to be taken on. And in doing so, working together, we all can make a difference in our personal lives, family lives, community lives. And together we can, and indeed we will, transform the world. In unity is strength. In unity is strength. Today's dialogue will focus on another aspect of your work. Okay. And we understand that you are the chairman of the Alliance for Police Accountability. For the benefit of the audience, can you explain its purpose? Why does the Alliance for Police Accountability exist? Its purpose, its final objective. Please explain.
Yeah, delighted to. The Alliance for Peace Accountability was born in 2022, post the George Floyd murder in America. And as a consequence of the Black Lives Matter movement, we had some discussions here in the United Kingdom in a forum called the Black Men for Change group, a group made up of men of my age who were considering what will be their legacies in relation to their various focus of activity. And mine being so much reflected in challenging systemic racism in policing and pushing for police accountability and human rights. A discussion was had between myself, Leroy Logan, who most of your listeners will know, and Viva Moon, and Jeremy Crook, who's the chair of Action for Race Equality, and a whole host of others came together and on policing decided that it is clear that the next generation are going to have to continue to fight this problem within policing way beyond when both you and I are around. So our view was that we needed to create a vehicle that would capable of passing down the baton in terms of our experience, what's worked, what hasn't, what people should avoid in the future and look out for, to the next generation. And so the Alliance for Police Accountability was born with a view to securing and restoring constitutional police accountability. At the moment, it's discretionary almost in London and some other areas. And also, how do we create a curriculum which says this has been the Black experience of policing in London, in Birmingham, in Manchester, in Bristol, and what can we learn from that? And the point about the whole exercise is to facilitate community empowerment through the creation of local citizens' assemblies who then meet and having become educated on the history of their relationship with the police, the nature and architecture of power and decision making in relation to policing in their local area, examining what innovation has been born of the Black Lives Matter movement, both here and in the United States and in other parts of the world, in terms of holding police to account, and what are the best practices here and internationally in relation to that exercise. And the whole point is to prepare this group of young people, and we're working in 5 cities. The first is in Birmingham, and we're started work there, where we bring young people, take them through this education and training regime, and then ask them to engage in organizing a citizens' assembly where the wider community is invited to vote on what they see as their priorities around what a 21st century anti-racist Black policing charter would look like and who they want to represent them in advocating for that charter. I don't know if you know, but the policing area is bedeviled with hand-picked leading Blacks who have no formal accountability with their communities, claim to speak on behalf of communities, but have no electoral mandate and no form of accountability. And so, being in this space for 40 years, I'm astounded. I met somebody the other day who was the chair of an IAG, remain nameless, has 17 contracts with individual police services around the country,
17.
whose view is 17 individual, whose view is that we shouldn't get hung up on the word systemic racism, their words, not mine. And when I challenged them to say, well, when you're standing up with these police services, speaking on behalf of the Black community, do you disclose the fact that you're in a contractual relationship with them and are paid by them? He said,
Mm.
no, there is no Nolan Nolan principles applied to these IAG chairs. Nobody knows who they are, how they got there, how much they're getting paid, what they're saying. And so, what we said in the APA is that we need to democratize this whole space so that people are properly accountable, elected to represent communities, and are mandated by a charter commission that sets out what the priorities for policing will be in any of these 5 cities between 1 and 5 years. And our goal is to get those charters delivered by next year so that we have a consolidated national police charter demand ahead of the next general election in 2029. So that in base is where we are. We the first city is Birmingham, and we've already started work with Birmingham Race Impact Group in Birmingham, and we'll be developing we're now delivering the curricula for the group of people who've signed up to be the steering group, young and old, taking them through that training, and out of the other end they will organise the assemblies which will produce these 5-year policing charters. Now they are for 5 years because one of the things that we've learned in the past is that when your chief superintendent changes, then his focus on race equality changes. And you find yourself having to renegotiate what is the strategy for tackling black grievances in your area with these individual officers, all of whom want to go their own idiosyncratic way. So they dismiss all the people that were previously being spoken to and handpick a new group of people to speak to, or decide to abandon that process and put in another. And what we've said is that we need consistency of approach to tackle this issue, not people's personal interpretations. And so by having a charter for 5 years, you get them to sign up, and West Midlands Police Crime Commissioner has signed up, and the police, to say that whatever comes out, whoever's in charge, that will be the strategy for the next 5 years. So at least giving some consistency of approach and focus and priority around that. And finally, there's the creation of police monitoring groups in each of these cities to reconnect our discussion about policing as we experience it in Birmingham, Bristol, and Manchester into a national conversation that is capable of mobilising and bringing issues to the fore on behalf of the Alliance of Police Accountability. That's the first charter. The second charter is around public health. So the public health charter is.
Can I ask you? Forgive me.
Yeah, go.
There's a lot of information there. Okay, and you were able
There
to
is.
rattle that off
It's complex.
with such fluency, and
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
I'm bound to ask you maybe 1 or 2 questions before we go to the next one. IAG 17 contract to one organisation, one individual. Is that correct? Did you actually say
One man.
one
Yeah,
man?
yeah.
17 contracts.
One man. 17 contracts, and he didn't feel that he needed to disclose or register his conflict of interest anywhere at all. Nor was he required to do so by the police.
Wow.
And partly that's what I'm seeking to change, because I think
Absolutely.
if I've got no problem with you having a contract for the police, but let's be absolutely clear with the community that you're a paid police employee and not representing the black community, and can't represent the black community unless you divorce and you end that contract.
And I'm bound to ask, as I'm based here in London, does his contract include the Metropolitan Police as well here in London?
One of them, yeah, it does.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does.
That's
and
interesting.
And can I say that this individual is conspiring with others to try and shut down the APA, because they know very well that if we bring accountability and democracy and transparency to the process, they don't survive. They're doing their level best to work with other bad faith characters at the highest level of the Metropolitan Police and the Home Office to make sure that the door is forever shut on the Alliance for Police Accountability. You see, the saving grace for us is that we don't accept government money. We're very
Absolutely.
clear. We're not accepting government money because we do not wish to be compromised in our credibility. Charitable money, fine. Money from local authorities, great. But if it's policing or Home Office money, then we will not be accepting it. Others do
Well
not
said.
have
Well said.
that that discipline, and therefore the Home Office and others are happy to fund these characters to continue to provide black cladding to the overwhelming white infrastructure.
My follow-up question, and thank you for that clarity, and I should make further inquiries on this particular matter. 17 is absurd. I can say publicly now, it is absurd, and that's bad faith governance arrangement, which need to be called out without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely.
But my follow-up question is, you talked about these local assemblies, but you focus on young people. So are these young people or those who've gone through an education curriculum set up by the Alliance? How are these young people being identified, selected, or indeed self-selected? Please explain.
Well, there's two things. One is they're putting themselves forward, so it's voluntary on their part. The second part is that there are people like me with decades of experience in their heads, and we need to transmit that, capture it, and transmit that to the next generation. At least whatever they do, they can look back and see, well, what can history teach us in relation to what our elders did. So that's very important for us, that transmission and the discussion. The assemblies will be intergenerational, but of course our emphasis is on equipping the next generation to lead. So it will have a youth element to it. But the principal program is about educating you to organize a citizens assembly. What is your local history in Birmingham around policing? What are the names that we can conjure from the long lost, their families, meet the victims, hear from people at the time. So you've got that living history being communicated to you to give you the professional framing, which is how decisions are made and resources allocated in your area, and what the rules and what was the racial audit mapping in your area, where we can see black representation and so on. And the third and fourth one would be, what does international best practice look like? So we look at what black communities have managed to do in Seattle. We look at what they've managed to do in some areas of Brazil. We look at across the entire diaspora and say, where does innovation lie and what does that look like? And we bring that so that they're able to see what others have done, not just internationally, but even locally here in the UK, in areas like Northern Ireland, whose experience of dealing with discrimination in policing is rooted in the Northern Ireland troubles. And they've got a lot to teach us about how they secured more accountable policing. And when they've had all of that training, it's about 12 weeks, then they sit down and organize the assembly, and then they invite the wider community, who then get the briefing packs, which are sort of summarization of the kind of education and training that the organizers have had. And they come along to a meeting, they're advised, they vote on their priorities, who they want to represent them, and they form the local police monitoring group for that area for the next 12 months.
Brilliant. Thank you. I suspect you may receive a few additional inquiries. Okay, but thank you. That's excellent piece of work. Let's go to the next charter you're about to mention.
Yeah, this is one close to my heart because it's a public health charter about tackling serious violence in our community. We hear the call for the abolition of policing, from younger elements in particular of our community. And in essence, what they mean is reducing the number of police officers and putting that money into prevention and diversion activity. That's the generality of what abolition means. It doesn't mean abolish the police service, in my understanding. And what we say that in order to reduce the policing enforcement budget, we have to, as a community, look at the issue of violence, serious violence in our communities. And by this, I don't mean just the sort of stereotypical view of, gang, in quotes, violence that we see taking tragically so many young people's lives, but also the fact that Black and ethnic minority women, particularly Black women, are disproportionately victims, and young girls, of serious violence in domestic violence, murders and attacks, of sexual abuse, particularly young girls, Black girls, by people that they know. And often in areas, the number of Black women who lose their lives for domestic violence can exceed the number of teenagers that are killed by homicidal knife stabbings. And yet, Black women's issues do not get the same coverage because it's in the vested interest of the media to paint the young Black man as the number one mortal threat. And so, Black women, who sometimes outnumber the number of deaths, over and above teenagers, are conspicuous by their absence in relation to the focus. And what we've said is that, look, if a Black community is really saying to ourselves that we have to rely on a grant from the town hall or the Home Office to save our children, to save Black women from being murdered, to stop our young girls being sexually abused, then we're already finished as a community. No amount of money will fix that problem, because our view is that they've got a vested interest in keeping this pipeline running smoothly. And young Black people are the raw assets, the cotton, the coal, the diamonds. Consider them as a product that when they go through the system, everybody gets paid. Police officer, prison officer, judge, probation officer, everybody gets paid. And what we say is that, look, if the Black community is serious about tackling the culture of violence, as it affects women, as it affects young people, as it affects young women, then we have to take responsibility ourselves and not ask what the government can do in relation to funding anti-violence initiatives, but ask what can we do with the assets we already have, in a very much more a Marcus Garvey mutual aid self-help philosophy, to say, look, if we love our children as we all claim we do, then surely we should be very happy to put our money where our mouths are and provide the resources that they need, so that we can combat this growing culture. Because you and I know it's in our music, it's on our TVs. The young people have 24/7 access to violence and pornography of a scale and an intensity and that wasn't available to us when we were young people. And so the challenge is an internally facing challenge to say to the Black community, let's create a public health charter to tackle serious violence. But in that charter, we're not asking what the government will do, what the school, your teacher will do. We are challenging ourselves to say, with the assets that we have, the churches, the mosques, the businesses, the temples, the professionals, the sports people, the entertainment, with the assets of what we got, what can we do for ourselves in order to tackle this issue? Which is, I think, will provide a much more sustainable basis for tackling the culture of serious violence in our community, which unfortunately I think is going to get worse because the economic situation is deteriorating, and we know that poverty and violence and crime, mental ill health, etc., all go right along in the same thing. So, two things: a policing accountability charter and a public health serious violence reduction charter. What the Black community says it will do, we must do as a community to end the tragedy of the violence that we see plaguing our communities.
Well said, well said. And the charters, they've generally received support from the communities. So just give us some idea of how it's permeated
Yeah.
throughout our communities. Yeah, please.
Everywhere we go, people are really excited about the debate. They want to get into the debate. You know, we've got a Safeguarding the Black Family conference. We started off looking at Child X and Child Q and the young women that were so horrendously abused and strip searched. And when we had a conference around that last year, we created a Black Child Safeguarding Board. That board has now matured and gone in to say we are a Black Family Safeguarding Board. And what we've uncovered is that there are so many safeguarding threats from the social services, from schools, from the police services. It's not just about institutionalized racism in policing. It's about maternity care cover for pregnant women. It's about all the things that I've mentioned. And therefore, in November, we're having a conference in partnership with the British Black Parent Group, very young and dynamic group that gives advice to young parents, to say, how do we safeguard the Black family and what are the threats in relation to the Black family? Because I have a queue of people at my door telling me that social services have intervened and taken away their children, and the basis for which they've done that, you know, reads like a 1950s horror story of stereotypical assumptions and prejudices that are replete in those social work reports to courts. And so safeguarding the Black family is very important. So as you can see, we start off with our conversations, but it suddenly mushrooms and grows as you bring in the community and you begin to hear, you know, some of the stuff. So watch out for the Black Family Safeguarding Conference in November later this year.
Thank you, and we may get you back and other members of your team in relation to that particular issue. It is close to our hearts here on the Motivator Show. I now need to come back to policing. I might need to push back a little bit on the Alliance for Police Accountability and its purpose, as you've outlined it. It is interesting as you outlined it. Now, what I observe, first of all, and I'm sure others, if I get this wrong, I'll be put right, that we now have a new government and it's now invested an additional 6.6%. Okay. In other words, that's equivalent to 4.223 billion pounds additional funding for 25-26 to create a grand total for England and Wales of 26 billion pounds worth of funding for our police services across England and Wales. Okay. Just for the best benefit of the audience, the United Kingdom also does include Scotland and Northern Ireland, but for today's show, we'll focus on England and Wales. Now, the biggest police service in England and Wales is, of course, the London Police Force, the Metropolitan and City Police Force, which consumes more than £5 billion of that 23 billion. Okay. Just for the benefit of the audience, the second largest consumer of police resources is the northwest of England at 2.3 billion. The northwest of England include, just for the benefit of the audience, Greater Manchester, Merseyside, Lancashire, Cheshire, and Cumbria. Okay. That's followed closely by 2.2 billion, and that includes southeast of England, Thames Valley, Kent, Surrey, Hampshire, and Sussex. Just to give you a few, and I should just mention Wales. The Welsh Police Service consumes of that amount £1 billion. Just for a reference point for the rest of the audience. The rest of England consumed the remaining balance. Just give some context for our audience. And London at £5 billion is significant. Okay. I want to just now move on to the governance arrangements, how that money is overseen, and how the Alliance for Police Accountability fits into this. Now, and if I get this wrong, Lee, I'm happy for you to correct me, but as I understand the arrangement, that the Mayor of London, as it is part of the accountability, that is a democratically elected Mayor of London, and he oversees the work of the Metropolitan Police via the Commissioner. That's right. That's right. Yep. Um, but for strategic matters, I understand the Home Secretary has that's strategic control. Am I right in saying that? Yes.
Slightly, yes. I'll
Yes.
correct you. Okay.
Good. Okay. And I wanted to emphasize, therefore, you have two democratically elected persons as pivotal points in the governance arrangements for the police force. Now, these are very powerful elected officials. Why isn't that enough, Lee? The mayor of London, who's directly elected by the people of London, and the Home Secretary, yes, she's in this case she is a member of the cabinet and appointed by the Prime Minister, but they're all MPs, they're all democratically elected officials, and below them they have multiple layers of inspectorates who are there to investigate and monitor the performance and value for money offered by the local police force. Why isn't that enough? Why is it necessary to have the APA?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons why. And let's first
All
start
right.
about the governance arrangements for London. The governance arrangement in London is that the mayor is the police crime commissioner for London. And he has a policing and crime committee that is made up of assembly members who are members of the Greater London Assembly. Their
All elected.
function
They're
is
all
to,
elected. See, they're all elected. Yep.
they're all elected. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the Police and Crime Committee of the Greater London Assembly is there in essence to interrogate the budget, the 5 billion from central government, and whatever additional top up the mayor may be giving them through the precept in the London area. And their function is not really to discuss strategy, not really to discuss priority. It's about whether there's value for money for the London policing plan that has been agreed by all, and whether his judicial management of the budget is ensuring that the Met gets held to account. So just to make that clear. So the mayor's office, now he's responsible for the strategic direction, high level London wide decision on priorities around crime. So he has a duty to produce a London policing plan, which I've just referenced. And he has a duty to consult communities in the completion of that plan, and he agrees that plan, and then he submits it to government. He may submit it to the assembly if he wants to put additional expenditure for additional police officers over and above what the national grant may give him. And that is the arrangement, democratic arrangement for London. Now, there's been some recent innovations because of the Casey review, which people into the murder of Sarah Everard, which was thoroughly excoriating of the mayor's office and the Metropolitan Police in relation to the way they tackled misogyny and racism. And as a consequence, recommended that there needed to be an additional level of police accountability in London. So they created the London Policing Board. The London Policing Board is a group of people who are handpicked by the mayor, including his deputy mayor, Kwaza Schwartz, who is a black woman who is the deputy mayor for policing and crime in London. And so that London Policing Board meets 4 times a year, and its job really is to provide the mayor with additional advice and oversight on the Baroness Casey report recommendations and their implementation. Now you've got to remember that that's at the strategic London-wide level. When it comes down to your borough, right, then that's where democracy is very light on the ground. And so in the past, if you remember, the Scarman report recommended local police consultative groups. Lambeth was indeed the first one, and I had the honour to be one of its longest serving chairs. But what that was a statutorily defined, required consultation with local communities in which a borough commander, a chief executive of a local authority, other agencies, fire, health, were required to attend a monthly public meeting in which the ordinary man and woman can walk in off the street and raise an issue with their borough commander or whomsoever they were targeted, local council leader. That was that. Above that used to sit the Metropolitan Police Authority, which was again another level of democratic accountability made up of local councillors and GLA groups, but for which the mayor had substantive co-option powers. And so under Ken Livingstone, you saw Peter Herbert, you saw Leroy Logan, you saw Cindy Butts, you saw, I could name me all the names. They were put there by Ken Livingstone and myself to add balance to that committee, and they kept their foot on the neck of the Metropolitan Police in relation to all the issues we're concerned about. Boris Johnson in 2014, subject to massive lobbying by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, who did not want these local consultation arrangements to survive. They felt that their police officers were turning up month by month and facing a shellacking of criticism, rightly so, in local areas, and that was demotivating them, to use your word, demotivating them, and he didn't think that that should continue. So he lobbied Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson then lobbied Rishi Sunak et al., and they abolished police consultative groups in 2014. So you lost a layer of instant democracy at the local level, which means that you could turn up and hold your police commander to account, along with your local councillors responsible for crime in your area. That has gone. It was replaced by safer neighbourhood boards. Now, safer neighbourhood boards, which replaced them, were mandated to be the liaison, community liaison between policing and local communities. I don't know about Southwark, but in Lambeth, we don't know who's on the Safer Neighbourhood Board. The minutes are confidential, so we can't see the minutes. They haven't held a public meeting since 2016 or something like that. And there's no public record of a public meeting by the Safer Neighbourhood Board. And just at the time when we've had the most acute crisis in confidence, don't forget, black trust and confidence in the Metropolitan Police is at the lowest level ever in its history. Just when that is the situation, we have the least level of accountability. Now, that's what applies in London. There are variations of police accountability systems right throughout the country. Some are better than others. But what you don't have is what you had under the 1994 Police and Criminal Evidence Act, a constitutional right to be consulted and a constitutional requirement for police officers to turn up and answer questions from the public. And what we're talking about is an attempt to return back to that constitutional requirement by campaigning for legislative change, but in the meantime, to use this 5-year charter agreement because it composes of one very critical, important aspect of these charters, and it's the consent order. And it's one of the innovations we've taken from the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States. Once we produce a charter, we say, if you work towards this, you have a consent order from our community to police our communities. If for whatever reason that is not being implemented, then we have a withdrawal of our consent order from our communities, which a community can take at any given time. So it doesn't have the same constitutional reach, but yeah, it's as best as we can do in the circumstances to try and provide some accountability in this area.
And just for further clarity, and I'm interested in the London Mayor. So the London Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime, or MOPAC.
Crime.
Yep. I understood its role, and just to reiterate the point you made a moment ago, that it set police priorities, it allocates budgets, It scrutinizes
Yeah.
performance. It appoints deputy
Yeah.
policing officials, okay, approves strategic plans, okay, and can pressure the commissioner politically. Now, the elected mayor seems to have incredible powers, therefore, over the police and can therefore transform its trajectory regardless of what the commissioner might say. It seems to be on very firm political control. Notwithstanding your argument as to why the APA exists, that the mayor's office appears to have incredible powers. Are you working ever closer with the mayor, so some of those powers can be shared, particularly as you create these citizen forums?
No, the mayor's office is not really interested in deepening police accountability
Oh,
in London,
all right.
and so
Okay.
I have to say that when Sophie Linden was his deputy mayor, she was a white woman. She's now
Mm-hmm.
been promoted up to the Home Office advisor on policing. She was very much more engaged on behalf of the mayor than the new deputy mayor, who's a black woman, Kaya Schwartz,
Mm-hmm.
has been. So we've had virtually no contact, if not some hostility. I think that
Oh,
at the end of the day, the reality is that we have a commissioner who's the most right-wing commissioner since Paul Condon. I want to make people
oh,
clear about that. This is somebody who goes to the IPPR Institute regularly, speaks there regularly,
mm-hmm.
facilitates think tanks papers as Metropolitan Police Policy, for instance, their policy paper on what they call affinity groups, which they mean, what they mean is black and ethnic minority police officers associations, and whether or
Mm,
not they're a good or a bad thing, led to the mayor, led to the commissioner stripping the Metropolitan Black Police Officers Association of its facility time,
oh,
and going after in misconduct procedures the national president of the National Black Police Officers Association, Andy George. So we have the most
oh,
right-wing commissioner. He's steadfast in saying he doesn't believe systemic racism is a problem. He's always speaking at the Institute of Public Policy and Research, the most right-wing think tank that we have in the UK. He's never spoken at a major black, Asian, or community-based policing event since he's been in post. He's refused to meet the APA because he says
mm,
we're extremists. And
wow.
the mayor has been utterly anemic in holding him to account. You may remember that Ken Livingstone got rid of a commissioner, Boris Johnson got rid of a commissioner. Look how long it took Sadiq Khan to get rid of Cressida Dick. Even when the writing was on the wall and people were
Mm-hmm.
saying she's no longer fit, he was saying, I have every confidence in Cressida Dick, way past the time when she should have gone. And what we see with Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley is a, um, a sort of anemia. It's remarkable for a public office with so much power for him to fail to
Mm,
hold
mm,
the Met to account during the worst period in its Met's history. You've got to think that under his period, and he's been in charge 16 years now or whatever it is,
yes, yes.
is that the deterioration, the rapid deterioration of the Met's reputation has been wholesale. You know, now the majority of Londoners, doesn't matter if they're black, Asian, women, gay
Mm,
communities, all of them got no confidence in the Met. And he's presided over that, allowed it to
mm,
happen. He's watched the commissioner refuse to accept systemic racism. I don't see how
mm,
you can police the most diverse city on the face of the planet and not
mm.
accept that systematic racism is real. I think it puts you
Oh,
outside the
okay.
scope of being fit for purpose. But this
Well,
mayor
that's pretty clear.
is
If I may,
weak, weak,
that message is
weak.
pretty clear now. I am surprised by the content. I'm accepting it. But what about the HM Inspectorate of Constabulary? Uh, they're there to assess the efficiency, legitimacy, and leadership and crime performance of the various forces. Um, are they not an agency for you to work with, for example?
We tried to work with them. So, just a bit of
Mm-hmm.
background: the National Police Chief Council we work with to create a race equality policy strategy
Mm-hmm.
for the whole of the country. So, we had these huge series of meetings with them. 2004. In fact, we were making so little progress that a national boycott of black people joining the police was issued by the National Black Police Officers Association towards
Oh,
the
wow.
end of 2004. And that forced everybody into a reset mode. People had to come back to the table. The National Black Police Officers Association is a member of the steering group of the APA. And when we went back to talk to them about re-engaging about the plan, we set out 5 major core principles. They accepted those principles because they couldn't stand the political pressure of the boycott. And we agreed a plan that was developed about what race equality should look like in policing throughout the country. Then we developed an operational plan called a maturity matrix that delineated in detail what each of these 43 forces in the country should do. When it went to the National Police Chiefs Council, it was agreed by their executive, but only 6 of the 43 chief officers around the country agreed to implement it.
Oh,
The
wow.
Home Office agreed to implement it,
Oh.
but that was under Yvonne,
Oh.
what's her name? The Home
I,
Secretary, Ed Balls's wife. I can't remember.
Yvette Cooper.
Yvette Cooper. Yvette Cooper. She was Home Secretary. She accepted it and
Yes.
was looking at taking it forward. Then she was replaced by Shabnam Mahmood, and the whole discussion has gone dead. So now we've got a situation where we have a 2.5 year engagement process that was very bitterly fought to get an outcome, including the boycott. We finally get an agreement between civil society organisations, community groups around the country through this consulting process that APA led. And we get to an agreement that we all agree this is the plan. And don't forget, it's only the first year of a 5-year plan. So, it's a ski
Yes.
slope
Yes.
start.
Yes.
And just as we all sign it off and agree, then the political machinery of government falls apart. Shabda Mahmood comes in. She's not more interested in replacing Keir Starmer or whatever the political agenda is for her currently, or chasing innocent migrants, around the streets with deportation squads. And we're now in abeyance. Now, we don't know
We're in the
which way the
bands.
government is going. There is a policing reform bill that's been put
Yes.
through, but that's about reducing 43 forces to about 12.
That's right.
That might make it even less accountable, actually, because if you're old enough to remember when policing became centralised, where you never saw a police officer on the beat, they were always in squad cars, and
That's
the
right.
general public out there said it's absolutely outrageous. We need police officers on the beat. And if you may remember Ken Livingstone came up with the safer neighbourhood teams. He said,
Yes,
I'll
that's
put
right.
these police officers on the beat and I will not extract them. They'll stay there for the whole of their careers. These are
That's
not
right.
officers interested in promotion. And so we did that. And that was the highest form of policing in terms of expression of people's public confidence that the Met has ever had in its life. But
I
of course,
agree.
Boris Johnson comes along, keeps the name Safer Neighbourhood teams, reduces the numbers of officers to like 2 in an area, and all of a sudden it's become utterly useless as a description. So,
Oh.
these are the issues
Yeah,
and these are the
that's clear.
challenges
That's very
that
clear.
we face.
That's very
Yeah.
clear. That's very clear. I just want to mention one other body. I just need to test this, you see, because it's out there. So the Independent Office
Oh,
for Police Conduct, okay, which I would have thought would be a natural ally for you. Okay, it is intended to test in custody police corruption, misconduct, excessive force, and racism and sexism allegations. Okay, and of course, the KC reviews under its auspices. Isn't that should be an excellent organisation to work closely with? Have they not cooperated with yourselves?
well, let me just tie off the HMRC, because you asked me about the question about
Okay,
that
go on then.
regulatory body, and
Okay,
I gave you a long answer that didn't
you
conclude.
did.
And the conclusion is We asked the HMRC, will you now inspect this National Race Action Plan that we've all agreed? So when you go around forces, will you inspect and evaluate how they're doing? And they said no.
They
said
no.
they didn't think it fit their regulatory profile.
Oh,
They said no. They said it didn't fit our regulatory profile, that there was a series of things in the plan that were the responsibilities for other agents, all sorts of flammery and excuses. So when you ask if we were working with the HMRC, well, we'd like to, but in fact, they've taken this particular stance on the race action plan, which means that they're neither use nor ornament to us in relation to enforcement. You went on to ask me about the IOPC. And we've had several meetings with the IOPC, and they have been helpful to the APA. First of all, they helped us clarify the fact that, do you know what percentage of race complaints do you think are found to be upheld in the London area
oh gosh.
for the Met?
I
If you were
want to
to
say
hazard a guess.
I want to say 60 to 70%. That's what I want to say, because clearly it's a very serious matter.
Okay.
And if you experience it, and I may have
Yeah.
experienced it as a child, I might add, okay, I would expect that particular officer to be received some sanctions, if not no longer a police person. But I would expect 60 to 70%, because
Yeah.
these are very serious accusations.
Okay.
What is the actual figure, please?
Well, let me explain.
Oh,
Most people think the IOPC handles these complaints. The IOPC handles virtually less than 0.5% of national police complaints. Every police service is required to investigate themselves, and it's only when that determination is made can you then refer to the IOPC if you're dissatisfied with that answer. And the figure for the Metropolitan Police Service in terms of the number of publicly generated race complaints that it receives is 0.3%.
no.
That means that 99.7% of race complaints generated against the Metropolitan Police and investigated by the Metropolitan Police do not get upheld. Now, I don't know about you, but these figures are Putinesque. I think even Kim Jong-un would be slightly embarrassed at the nature of these figures, and yet for our community and for the London Mayor, it doesn't seem to matter one way or the other. Now, working with the IOPC, I've been able to bottom out and really pin the pinata to the donkey in relation to, well, who's really responsible for complaints? Because the vast majority of complaints will be dealt with by police themselves, and they are refusing to uphold the vast majority of those race complaints. The IOPC at least made this an issue and brought it to our attention. And the IOPC itself has complained and campaigned for greater powers to be able to hold people to account. You may have seen just recently that the IOPC, when the person was acquitted of shooting our brother in Chris
Carbo.
Chris Garber, is that when the police found him not guilty, or the jury found him not guilty, after the ILPC tried to discipline him for gross misconduct. Yeah, so he wasn't guilty according to them. The system said he wasn't guilty of a crime, but they felt he was guilty of malpractice, and they took it out. Every firearms officer in London threatened to walk off the job. The commissioner got onto the mayor got onto the IOPC, and last week the IOPC said, if you remember at the time, the Home Secretary said, "Oh, I'm going to review the standard and the threshold at which police officers can be prosecuted because this Chris Carber thing has been a nonsense." Now, you'd have to remember, there's only ever been 13 referrals of police officers for killing black people in its entire history, and only one of them, the murder of Daly and Atkinson, was convicted. So it's not as though as though the doors were open to mass convictions of police officers for killing black folks. That's not been the case. Despite that, the hysteria in the Daily Mail, in the London Standard, in the usual places meant that, and police officers saying we're going to go on strike if our fellow officer gets convicted and so on and so forth, meant that the Home Secretary has had a review and she's actually pushed up the threshold even higher, right? Which almost is, the implication of it is almost a license to kill, because how are you going to meet that threshold? It was incredible beforehand and only has ever resulted in one successful prosecution. And now the government's plan is to move it even higher, therefore removing absolutely any possibility of judicial accountability for them. And the
I've got to
IOPC,
just say, forgive me. So this
well,
is a Labour government that's doing this.
it's a Labour government. Labour government. And the IOPC, who initiated the disciplinary procedures, they must have had a phone call from number 10 or something, because they have now dropped it and said, no, we're not going to pursue these disciplinary procedures because we're awaiting the change in the national framing that the government and the Home Secretary has announced. Now, I've said, look, the government may choose to change the law or not. It doesn't reply retrospectively. And if somebody is guilty of gross misconduct under the old laws, even up till today, till the law is changed, then you should pursue said individual to its ultimate conclusion. But such is the massive political pressure that has been brought on to give license to officers to reign free as armed officers in our community, that even the ILPC, who I've got a lot of time and respect for, was forced to fold and cave in and abandon its disciplinary procedures against an
If I may
officer
then,
that
Mark,
it believed.
I need to ask you in that case, in the Baroness Louise Casey report. Why is that significant? Yeah, why is that significant? And will aspects of that report be a part of your conference, please?
Well, we had the honour of Baroness Casey speaking at our launch in 2002, just after she completed her report, and it was the most trenchant critical assessment of the Met, and she left no crumbs. She left no
And if I may then,
collisions.
Lee, if I may, Lee, just for the benefit of, so if I say it, then you're not being accused of being
Yeah.
extremists. So the key conclusions of that report is that the Metropolitan Police was identified as being institutionally racist, misogynist, in other words, hatred against women, a bullying organization, weak internal accountability, which is why I've been quizzing Lee on accountability.
Yeah.
Cultural failures, the cafeteria culture, which is awful to behold. And of course, as you've alluded to, public trust had collapsed. Okay. And the Baroness Casey sought to review and testified a call for structural reform, stronger accountability, and possible breakup of the Met, as opposed to the opposite, which is being currently pursued by this Labour government. Okay, so those are the headlines. Over to you, Lee.
Yeah, and provided the most trenchant criticism, people read the report. It's everything the black community has been saying for the last 30 or 40 years, in essence.
Yes.
Only now, what's happened is that white women, through the death of Sarah Everard in this investigation, means we've got a majority of white women in London and a majority of black people in London who all share the same view, that this organisation is racist, misogynistic, and so on. And if you take the serial murders of the game young men up in southeast London by Stephen Pollard, which was also investigated by Casey, what you find is they failed the gay community, they failed the white women community, and they failed the entirety of the black community. This is a majority of Londoners, whichever way you look at it, in terms of people who are feeling those failures. And the Casey review was absolutely damning. The commissioner hated it because it named him as being responsible for the failures, as it was, and the mayor. The mayor responded by creating the London Policing Board, essentially, and making all sorts of statements about his commitment to zero tolerance. The commissioner then began to lobby the mayor and the Home Secretary to say, well, this report, it states that Louise Casey will be back in 2 years to assess what progress has been made. If you remember, Louise Casey at the time said the Met is drinking in the last chance saloon. If it doesn't get this right, it will have to be abolished. Such was the profound political kickback from the right wing of the right wing commissioner that he told the mayor and the commissioner, I don't want Casey back. Yeah, because Casey did an interview on BBC London in which she said she didn't think the commissioner was man enough to deliver the change, which is, for a civil servant, that is remarkable language. But in any event, the commissioner told the mayor and the Home Secretary he didn't want Casey back. And so when she was supposed to come back and deliver a final verdict 2 years in 2004, you notice it didn't happen. Right? Because she was shuffled up onto some other inquiry. And he said, look, I'm prepared to have a 2-year review, but I'm not having her doing it. And he got his way yet again. So the mayor announced the Fairfield review. Dr. Gillian Fay of Fairfield is an NHS civil servant, really. And she's been commissioned to come back now 2 years after 2004, when the review should have been done. So 2026 now. So she's been brought in to assess how far the Met had gone in implementing the review. And the final rub of this story is that 5 of the London Policing Board have resigned. Professor Neil Rollock, Leslie Thomas, one of our finest black QC King's Counsels in the country, his reputation for dealing with deaths in custody case is outstanding. He should be a Human Rights Lawyer of the Year. Professor Nicole Rollock, a complete doyen of diversity and equality in the public space. She's resigned, as well as 4 others. And they've resigned because every time the Met brings forward its police race action plan, they consider it to be wholly inadequate. So in December 2004, they met and said to the police who produced their update report, this is scandalously bad. It cannot pass muster. You must go away and redo it. The commissioner went back, complained to the mayor about the individuals who were giving him such a hard time. And the next thing you know, they've all left the board and they've gone about their business. He's then hired Dr. Gillian Fairfield to come in to do a review. But here what happened, the commissioner turned up at the London Policing Board at the last meeting and said, we're abolishing the London Race Action Plan. We're just going to do a general equalities framework. Yeah. The key recommendation of the Casey review now, we're going to abolish the London Race Action Plan, right? We're going to fold it into a general EDI framework, and that's where it'll live. So there'll be no more focus around race equality. So I don't have to bring back a race equality plan here, because here is my diversity plan. Now, Dr. Gillian Fairfield has been been brought in to review progress against the Casey recommendations, central to which is a race equality strategy for London, co-produced with Black Londoners. The commissioner has got rid of Casey, got rid of his critics on the London Policing Board, and dumped the plan. Yeah, I don't know what Dr. Gillian Fairfield is going to review, but there's not very much left for her to review, because he doesn't accept systemic racism definition that Casey gave him, and he's now abandoned the race equality action plan. He's politically destroyed the London Policing Board. Yeah, that's going to be a very short review paper in my view.
I'm sorry, I'm almost lost for words, but I'm just conscious that we're having a dialogue here. But what you're revealing, I'm not sure why it is not raised its head above parapet for me to see it. But as you
I'm
describe it, and
I'm
as you're
forever
speaking,
writing.
it's okay. What I'm now doing is just validating what you're describing. And every word you've just described in the past 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, every word is accurate. I cannot find an inaccuracy on it.
Yeah.
Normally I can find a weakness and I can pursue it just for the benefit of the audience. Here, every word that Lee Jasper has described here is correct. It is factual, it's evidence-based, it's verifiable. I now need to, if I maidenly, because you've now set a context, okay? The conference. Beyond statement, designing justice for women in policing. Okay, now you haven't yet talked about women in policing or alluded to it yet in the build up to this, but why is this the theme for this conference, which is scheduled for the 16th of May between 10 and 1:30 p.m. Why is it? Why is that the theme? What is significant about women in policing? The conference need to be organised.
Well, Alliance Against Police Accountability Movement. So UK Black Pride is a member of the APA steering group, as well as the National Black Police Officers Association, Operation Black Vote, Black Equity Organisation, Action for Race Equality. Organisations and individuals are on that steering group. We've made a commitment, and I've made a personal commitment to making sure that we go and consult with every aspect of our community. So we had a roundtable on Black, lesbian, and gays' experience of policing in terms of how they experience the service. We have one on Black people with disability, particularly those who are deaf or hard of hearing, how they are reporting racial harassment and getting a pretty piss poor service from police officers who turn up to their property. We're focusing on women and their experience both within the service and outside of the service as victims of crime or suspects and witnesses. And we're focusing on young people because these make up the distinct elements of our community, and we want to be truly inclusive. We think that it's to speak on behalf of an entire community means you have to do the extra long yards to consult every aspect of that community. So we're proud of our fact that on Saturday, Dr. Shireen Daniels, who wrote the 30 Pathways of Harm report, which was interesting because it was hugely critical of the police, and it was hugely lauded in all elite circles as being a groundbreaking report. She was, first of all, offered a commission to work with the Met to help them with their London Race Action Plan. And I can only assume she got wind that they were going to abolish the plan, and so she turned her back and walked away and said, "I'm sorry, I cannot engage." I don't know the full details, but on Saturday she's going to reveal them at the conference. She's told me very clearly, "I've not spoken publicly since I left the Met after writing that report, but I intend to put it all on the table for your conference." So I'm absolutely delighted. Although I don't know the detail, you'll have to come along. So our approach is that, look, we have to be intersectional in our representation, especially for the next generation. When I'm dealing with younger people, they come in all sorts of genders, all sorts of different perspectives. And we need to move with that and say, look, we'll make sure that women are represented, Black disabled people are represented, Black LGBTQ people are represented, Black Muslims are represented, Black Christians are represented, Black youth are represented. And we're just doing the hard yards to give that focus. So we cannot be accused of not representing our community.
But forgive me, and you mentioned your intersectionality, and I understand the various groups you've identified. But for this conference, designing justice for women in policing, I go back to the Casey report and noting misogyny in policing. I get that. Have they specifically Black police
No,
or women generally?
we just Yeah, I mean, black women in policing are being traduced. Keeping up with events. I mean, when you look at young Maya, recently in the police, the way that she's been treated by the Metropolitan Police Service, the chair of the the Black Police Officers Association, is a black woman, treated her horrendously, as if she was some cleaner. We've got Dr. Robin Williams. Dr. Robin Williams is a former borough commander. She was the poster girl. And let me say, and she'll be the first to agree, her and I used to have huge row because I was said she was too in the pocket of the Metropolitan Police. And we row. And she was eventually the person that was accused, if you remember, of sharing a picture of her daughter in a
Oh,
bath
yes.
at home bathing, and she was accused of sexually inappropriate images, of sharing a picture of her own daughter in a bath. And they picked up on that, and they took what was supposed to be the Mets poster girl. Yeah, she was commended by the people of the Grenfell fire, who wrote a public letter and said, "We only want Robin Williams. She's the only one who has the empathy and the intelligence and the understanding, and she sticks to her word, and she's professional." That's not the only commendation this sister has had, and her whole life was traduced. And even when the employment tribunal supported her and found in her favour, the commissioner still tried to get rid of her and launch more attacks on her. And so what we say is that we can see black women who do join the force are subject to gross misconduct proceedings, disproportionately so, along with black men, and their entire lives are being publicly traduced on these nebulous charges to execute a political agenda. And we have to send the message to the commissioner that we will not stand for it. We will not stand to see, exactly what happened to me in the mayor's office happened to our sisters in a much less politically high-profile role as professional services. Look, you may have a view about whether we should be in the police or not. My view is, in this country, there should be no profession that a black person wants to join that they shouldn't be able to do so without fear or favour of being discriminated on the basis of the colour of their skin, to expose and challenge systemic racism. And that's what this Saturday we'll be creating a that says no more disproportionate misconduct for black officers in misconduct investigations for black officers in the service. We want to send a message to our sisters that we see you in there. We know you're the fight systemic racism, and we want to tell you that this alliance you have with our community, will back you up when you need us in relation to your role as a police officer. And there are so
Well
few of them.
said. Well
The other
said.
thing is,
Well said.
there are so few of them. Yeah.
No, well said. Well said. Now we want to, of course, Lee, encourage public participation and collective action.
Yeah.
Okay. So the conference is clearly the go-to place. Okay, one would have thought, and I'll just give the details out again about the conference, and you may just want to add a little bit to it. So it is on Saturday, the 16th of May, between 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m.
Yeah.
It's at the University of East London at the Docklands campus at London E16 2RD. I will now put up the QR code, so those who wish to attend will need to book their spaces, I assume. Is that right?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So,
brilliant.
two things. It's now, if you go to the QR code and go to the Eventbrite, you'll see some changes. It's now 1 till 5.
1 till 5. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Let me rehearse that. It's 11 till 5.
11
so we've
to 5.
extended
Forgive
it
me,
just
people. I'll put it on the screen. I'll put it on the screen. Go ahead. Yep.
No, that was our fault because just because of demand, really, we're extending the time. So 11 till 5 is the time. It's if you follow the QR code, you'll see it's not at the Docklands campus, it's at the University Square campus again, because Docklands Docklands is small. University Square is larger. But anyhow, you
Right.
follow the QR code, then you get the correct information on the other
Perfect.
side of the Eventbrite page. So it's at the university campus venue. It's 11 till 5, and you can book online. If you go onto the Alliance of Police Accountability, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook website, you'll see it. The flyers all over. Do come along. It should be to hear Robin Williams and
Mm,
Dr. Daniel speak is going to be phenomenal. And I
I
think as
agree.
black men, we just have to pay respect because our sisters are often at the very front line of this struggle. And
Absolutely
sometimes black
right.
men are absent without leave.
Yeah, it
And
is absolutely
so,
right. No, I agree with you. I would encourage members of the audience who are able to tend to go along. So you've got it 11 to 5,
yeah,
and that's what's important. The QR code's
that's right.
on the screen, and we will also
Yeah,
and if you are in receipt of our promotional materials, would include a direct link to the Eventbrite space, so that
yes,
you've got that as well, members of the. So watch out for it.
yeah.
But I will recommend attendance. I absolutely, and I will be in attendance. I will be in attendance. You'll meet the motivator live at this particular meeting. So that so.
Wonderful.
But it can it be quite clear, of course. So the conference will listen to learned women and a few men, I'm sure, at the conference. It's
Mm.
a call to action. What the outcome you're seeking?
Yeah. Well, what we're seeking is for people who are in the service to really sign up to the APA to support this work around community safety and the black family. And we're asking people to volunteer to come with us, and we'll facilitate and provide the minutes and everything they need, but to
Mhm,
set up the recruits so that we have a standing committee of powerful black women who are
mhm,
forever visiting and revisiting the issues affecting black women within policing and criminal justice. So the call to action is come and join us and be part of this wider network as we move
mhm,
forward.
mhm,
And
mhm,
Dr. Shireen
mhm,
Daniels and Robin Williams are signed up and are part of that journey. So you'll be in the
mhm.
presence of some phenomenal women.
Yes, absolutely right. And lastly, to help us, for you to wrap up what has been an important canter throughout the police services across Britain, England and Wales in this particular case, and looking at it through a sort of black or African perspective, as it were, as we experience the police service, and this is our reaction to it. So the existence of the Alliance for Police Accountability is indeed almost a natural extension to our collective will for justice in the police force and for
Yeah.
justice throughout society. Okay. I'm going to invite you, Lee, to spend a few minutes just to wrap up all
Mm.
the information you've shared with us, and give us a few inspiring words. Because this is the Motivator Show, because here we translate words into action. Over to you.
Look, I think Um, there are very many existential challenges facing our community. The rise of the extreme right, the rise of racist attacks, and so on. But one of them is, and has always been an ever present existential threat, is policing. And we know when policing goes wrong, it can go tragically wrong, and the scale of that can have profound effects to wider community. Our history is defined by resistance against the most egregious aspects of institutional and systemic police racism. And what we found is when we fail to pay attention, when we fail to reinforce the gains that we made in the past, such as we did with the Lawrence inquiry, is that this is a police service that will ruthlessly dismantle all aspects of race equality that have been secured through the pain, tragedy, tears, and loss of our communities. These are hard fought for wins. And because we're were less active on the issue of police accountability. They believe that they can just, scrap and abolish and get rid of all sorts of hard-won progress that we've made. So it's vitally important going forward. And if we look at everything from the Windrush scandal and the immigration policing of that to the level of disproportionality, particularly of our children. As you know, the number of reports from the Child Commissioner's Office was very explicit to say black and ethnic minority children are being brutalized and strip searched, often without an appropriate adult, in ever increasing numbers. So the racism that we faced has now morphed into a new aspect of 21st century racism, adultification, which means that your child and my child are assumed to be dangerous predator animal, criminals, and are treated as such. And we've seen that with devastating effects. And we all know that a bad incident in policing can destroy an entire community. So it's fundamental to who we are as British citizens. You should be able to walk, and your child should be able to walk down the street without facing undue harassment from police officers, and the process of criminalisation that then follows, even if it's for a minor public disorder offence because you failed to pass the King's attitude test to the blue uniform, means that your employment life is destroyed. Because you've had this engagement with the police and it's on your record. So it's incredibly important. It costs people lives. We paid an enormous amount in pain, blood and sacrifice to try and get the Macpherson recommendations implemented. And we should fight to the last inch of our breath to defend them and to get them reinstituted and done that. But what the police have done is created a very clever ecosystem of political patronage and handpicked leading black people who've got contracts to keep them sweet, who are prepared to rock up and say, we speak on behalf of the black community and we think everything's fine. And so democratizing that that whole police consultative landscape is very, very important for us. Look, if the far right continues to grow, racist murders are likely to increase and racist violence. You're going to want those people prosecuted. You're going to want those people tracked down. And if we can't rely on the police service, because half the police service are in the very racist organizations or share the same cultural racist perspective as they did. We're going back to the times when you remember, you're much younger than I, but you may remember that back in the day, officers were members of the National Front. And when they used to arrest you, they used to show you their lapel like that, and they used to have a gollywog and an NF badge there. And that is that was just a signal to show you, listen, don't mess with us because we hate you. And we're going back to those times. How many police officers are now voted for reform? They're in uniform. They're walking around our streets. Really? I know that the commissioner's just done a big push against Freemasonry. Did you see that? He's required all officers to declare Freemasonry, whether they're Freemasons. So look, there's so much on the plate for the next generation. And I'm just, as I come to this grand old age, I just want to sign off in an ethical way that says, well, we might not have cured the issue, we might not have solved the issue, but we've left our community in a much better place to finish the job on the next series of that relay race than when I certainly came in, 40 years ago as a young man trying to find my way about how we develop police accountability. So come along, do support us. We're independent. We don't take no government money. I'm not interested in their money. We're interested in you as a community being our most precious and valuable resource over and above any money.
Hey, well, I just want to say that's fantastic. Hey. More of that. Come on. Yeah, more of that. Come on now. Yes. Well done, Lee. Keep up the good work. Yeah, keep up the good work. That's the sound. You want to hear that sound? Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you very much. There you are. I think it's the best loudness. It's familiar. Thank you. Keep up the good work. We are here always for you. I say to the audience, he's more than just an icon. He's more than just an institution. He's the rock, the foundation. Thank you, Lee Jasper.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you.
Indeed. All right.
Thank you.
It's the Motivator here. Hope you enjoyed that fantastic podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, or at the very least, give us a like. And don't forget the next video on screen. Click through and enjoy.